Hey guys, and welcome to the second video of this series on Server 2016. In this particular video we're going to be installing SQL 16 and SCCM 16. Now I'm going to be doing this across two VMs rather than installing it on one, primarily because most enterprise environments have a separate SQL instance. They don't install SQL and SCCM on the same box. So to me, even though for a quick easy video I would rather try and emulate an enterprise environment where possible. And obviously this makes the installation more complex but more realistic. So let's go over to my machine here. Now what we've done is we've got an SCCM box here which has got 8 GB of RAM, and also the SQL box. Now I've pre-built these with Server 16 already. If you want to know how to do that, have a look at the first video, it takes you through. Now there's nothing special on these are just basic 8 GB with 3 CPUs with 1 hard drive. So what I am actually going to do is on my SQL box, I prefer to put SQL databases on a separate drive. So what we're going to do is we are going to add another disk. So create new so that we have 2 disks. Now obviously on a home lab environment, to be honest, it doesn't matter, but I am trying to emulate an enterprise environment as close as I possibly can. So it's kind of a best practice thing rather than just setting it up, get it going, and there you go, ta-da, see you later. So let's put that on with the disk itself. It's SQL inside there. Boom, boom, boom. Okay, so we've got 2 disks on that particular VM. I'm also going to create 2 disks on the SCCM server, and the reason for doing that is because one of the prerequisites for SCCM is WSUS. This is now a prerequisite and it won't install unless you have SUS services running. SUS services should be synchronizing with a different disk. Don't synchronize it on your OS disk purely for I/O reasons. For those of you who have used SUS services before, you will know that it absolutely hammers the drive. So let's put that out to got the extension there. So let's start up these 2 VMs now. Now obviously I have already built these, so they should just boot straight up. And there we go. I've also domain joined them to the 2016 domain controller, which I built in the previous video. Which is there, 16 Elm local, and that's the name. Now, first thing we need to do is, for SCCM to work, we need to extend the Active Directory schema. So what we're going to do is we're going to pop onto our domain controller and we're going to mount the SCCM. No, we can't mount it because it's not an ISO. Right. When we install Server 16, it installs as a core edition. There's no start menu, there's no desktop services. These are now added as a extra. So what we need to do is, first of all, is go to Add Roles and Features, whiz across those 2, and we will find it in the Features area. Oh, my eyesight's going. Right here, user interfaces and infrastructure. So what we need to do is we need to add desktop experience, and that also adds in the server graphical shell. So when you add that, you get a traditional start screen. Now we also need to do this on our SQL box. The reason why we need to do it on the SQL box is SQL will not install on Core Edition without the desktop. So we'll add that in there as well. So like that, whiz along, boom, boom, boom. Go down to here. It's nice and clear on your screens because I zoom into it, but it's not on mine. So hit next, reboot if you need to. Yes, yes, yes. Fine, finish install. Right, let that crack on. So that's just finishing installing, and it will probably reboot. Because what we need to do is there's an app inside the tools folder of the SCCM install called EXTAD, and that basically extends a schema of Active Directory to allow components of SCCM to work correctly. And I'm going to come back to this when this is actually finished. Right, so as we can see, adding the desktop experience has caused Windows Update to do a massive update there, which I wasn't expecting. So obviously these things happen with technical previews. Right, and here we have our start menu when it comes up. Right, so the first thing we need to do is browse to your SCCM media. I thought they were ISOs when they downloaded, but the SCCM components are actually an executable. So I keep them on here. So what we need to do is unzip that to the hard drive to let that go through. Right, that's successfully uncompressed. To be honest, having it as an executable is quite annoying, because if it was just an ISO, we could have mounted that and browsed it to it. Because on the domain controller side, we've only got one thing to do. Okay, so for the schema extension to work, what we need to do is go into Active Directory users and computers. You need to bring up the account that you're going to use to actually extend the Active Directory. Now, I created an account in a previous video which had enterprise admins. We also need to add in schema admins. It's very, very important, guys, because it won't work. Once that's done, just log off quickly. Otherwise that doesn't, I don't know why that keeps appearing. Log back in again. So I don't particularly want the schema admins part of any other account, so that's why I have this super Rich Smith account. So what we'll do is bring up a command prompt elevated as an administrator. Go back to your SCCM share, so SCCM, go SMS setup, cd bin x64 extaddsch. And there we go, successfully extended the Active Directory schema. Now, to verify that that's actually worked, there is a log in the root file called extaddsch.log or text. If it fails for whatever reason, it tells you in here the reasons why, and it also shows you what it's done. So that's a great place to look at. So to be honest, that's all we need on here. So I'm actually going to delete that now because I don't need it. files are open. There we go. Okay. So once that's done, we need to create a few accounts. So go back into users and computers. We need to create a SQL, like a SQL service user account. So we'll just do that. So new user. So we'll create SC underscore service SQL. So I use a service first, so that when you sort, everything's SC's System Center, services are all services grouped together, and then SQL or whatever your service name is. So we'll just create that. So copy and paste that into there. Set a password. We're also going to create a System Center admin account, so SC admin. So we've got those two accounts there. SQL Service account needs to be a domain admin. Oh. Also make that a domain admin. And then log in with that account. Right, we've got a few features to install on this one. So what we need to do, skip that, is we need .NET, otherwise SQL fails. So we need .NET 3.5 on this particular box. So we'll hit next, restart if you need to. While .NET's installing, we will open up our necessary firewall ports for SQL. So bring up the firewall. So go into firewall with advanced security, and we want inbound rules. Now you can either set the ports on the server itself, or you can set a group policy. Entirely up to you. I'm just going to set them on the box because it's just a lab environment. So we'll set port, so inbound. We've got TCP port, and Pacific ports are 1433,4022. So we want to allow that for domain only. So we'll call that SQL ports in. We also got some predefined rules which we need to do. So if you go to predefined, and we need WMI. So we just basically need to enable them and allow that. And the other one we need is file and print sharing. You could just find them in the list and enable them, but to be honest, it was just easier to do it that way. We also need to create some outbound rules, so I'm going to set the same again to 1433 and 4022. Allow domain only. SQL ports, and also predefined for file sharing. If you don't have file sharing enabled, then when you try to browse for where the SQL database is during the SCCM installation, it causes a failure because it can't see it. So that's why you need that there. Okay, so that is it as far as that is concerned. Installation succeeded, so .NET's all done and ready to go. So what we'll do now is we will mount our SQL ISO. Insert a disk, because they've done that as an ISO. And that should bring up, here it is. This is where it gets really exciting. Right, so installation. Now, hopefully this will all work. So we do new SQL install. It is only an evaluation, so hit next. We accept the terms. Next. Use the Microsoft update. It doesn't actually download anything in this particular video, but it probably will do by the time you get to do it. So all prerequisites have passed. We've got a Windows firewall, but to be honest, it's just warning us to make sure that we've opened up the ports. I don't understand why it never actually tests that we've opened the ports, but hey. So we need to do a feature installation. Now, don't install everything because you don't need it all. Just select what you need, which in this particular instance is database, engine services, full text, as also we need analysis service, reporting services native, and also very useful is management tools basic, and we also want the complete as well. So this gives us the SQL Management Studio, which you will need to view your databases and edit permissions and privileges, which you do need to do. So we're going to accept the default installation. Just reminded me we haven't formatted our second disk. Oh. Hang on. Everything moves around. Disk management, there we go. So just right click on start menu to get that little menu up. Right, so we have an unknown disk. So this is the disk that we created at the beginning. So we'll just bring that online. So right click on it, go to online. I should bring it up. Then right click on it again, do initialize disk. Yep, GPT is fine. Right click on the volume itself, just do a simple volume. We want all of the space set as E drive, and we'll call this SQL DB. So this is where we're going to dump as database. So E drive. So go to next. So it has a little think. Okay, so we want the default instance name. We don't want to change that. They're all default as well. Hit next. Thank you. Right, so here we need to set our accounts. So this, we are going to use the account that we created earlier. So 16 sc _ service SQL. And your best bet is just to copy and paste that. And then put your password in. Also, you need to change the startup type of SQL Server agent to automatic because it's manual by default. And here is the most important part, and if you don't do it, you will kick yourself because SCCM will fail. You must set the collation of the database. So when you click on Customize, down here you've got SQL collation used for backward compatibility. Scroll down this list until you find SQL Latin 1 General CP1 CIAS. CP1 CIAS. Make sure that's right, guys, because you will cry if you don't get it right. SCCM will just bomb out and it won't work, but SQL will install all fine, happy. You don't need to change it for analysis services. So click Next. Okay, so what we'll do is we'll add the current user and we'll also add in the SC service SQL user, and we're going to use it a couple of times, so just copy that. So add that in as well. Now, Data Directories tab. This is where you change the default location of the database. Now, obviously, it defaults to C drive. I don't want it on C drive. I want it on my E drive. So just change there. Now, in some enterprise environments, they even set a drive for the logs so that all your I/O is split up. So SQL is on one disk, the database is on another disk, the logs are on another disk. But for the purposes of the lab, I'm quite happy with the logs just sitting on C, to be honest. I'm also going to set the backup as well to the E drive. Okay, hit next. Add the current user and also add in the just forgotten it. SC service SQL. Don't need to worry about anything else. Hit next. Install and configure. And then, bump, you're ready to go. Now, here is an ini file with all the settings. So if you wish to replicate the settings again in a different environment, then this is a text file that was used to actually build this SQL environment, which can be handy if you're testing different settings out, or you're creating a silent install or something like that. Right, so then what we do is we hit install. This whole process can take around 20-25 minutes, maybe longer, depends on the speed of your machine. So we'll be right back. Hey guys, and welcome back. So we have successfully installed SQL 16 to run with SCCM. So let's close that down. I'm just going to give it a bounce while that's sorting itself out. We're going to switch over to our SCCM box. Log in. Same with this one. I'm going to in the desktop services role. Which I suspect is going to cause a huge Windows update, so I'll be right back. Okay, so we've installed our Windows desktop experience, so let's log back in again. So you want to use the SC admin account. I've also copied the SCCM source files onto the C drive, just to sort of speed up things really, because that takes its time. It's a 500 meg extraction. We do have a few prerequisites to add as part of the SCCM installation. So go into Server Manager, wait for it to finish turning its cogs. Go to Add Roles and Features. Right, and the first role that we need is WSUS. So Windows Server Update Services. So we'll pop a tick in that. We've got some components that we need to add for IIS, which we need to select later. We can't select them here. And also in here we need .NET 3.5. We also need bits, background intelligence services. So that's when you are distributing your packages to different sites. It does it in an intelligent manner, doesn't flood your network. We also need remote differential compression. We also need that. And I believe that's it. So hit next. Yes, fine. Now then, I'm going to set SUS to use the SQL instance that we've just created. I don't like using the WID. So that's the Windows internal database. So we'll use SQL. So pop a tick in there. We are going to store it on our secondary drive, which we haven't formatted yet. So right click on Start menu, go to Disk Management. Right click on the disk, bring it online, same as we did before, initialize. Format it, simple volume, next. E drive, we'll call it WSUS. It might be worth actually creating a drive as well for packages, as they can also get very, very big. We'll do that later. So minimize that. So we'll write that out to EWSUS content. We want to write it. This is where it all proves that our SQL instance is working. It's a 16 SC SQL 01. Check connection. Yay! Successfully connected to server. Good. So hit next. Right, we need IIS 6 WMI compatibility, which you'll find at the bottom. Pop a tick in there. If you don't, then SCCM prereq check fails. We also need, a lot of them are enabled anyway as default. The ones that we need, I'll come back to them. Hit next, do a restart. This is quite lengthy, so we'll be right back. While that's installing away, I think what we'll actually do is we will install the ADK kit as well, as that is yet again another quite a lengthy install. At the time of recording this video, we have ADK kit version for ADK version 10, but the install is broken. It doesn't download correctly from Microsoft. So for the purposes of this video, I'll be using 8.1, but ideally we should be using 10. So download that, which gives you this, and we say yes to install. Yes, we'd like to join the program to help them out, fix the bugs. Hit accept. Now ticks out these particular boxes. All we need is deployment tools, Windows PE, critical for SCCM, and user state migration tool. These are prereqs that are required. Hit install. That is going to kick off about 3 gig download. While that is running, what we're going to do is we're going to jump back onto our SQL box. And we're going to add the computer accounts. As long as it doesn't crash like it just has. Told you that'd happen. Let's try again, shall we? All I want to do is log on. Is that really that difficult? Does it take 25 million lines of code just to log on? Okay. Bring up the edit users. This doesn't actually work either. Found another bug. I thought it fixed it by now, but it's not. What we can do is we can go into computer management and edit users there. Go into groups, go into admins, add, change the object type to include computers, and what we need to do is add in our SCCM server name, so 16 SCCM 01, and apply. So that gives this SCCM box privileges over the SQL box. Let's see what SCCM's doing. So all our roles and features have installed, which is good. We've got a flag there for tasks to do. Now, sus is a tricky one. I don't like clicking on that, basically. You've got to be very careful with sus and SCCM. Maybe it's changed in 2016, I don't know. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to run sus through here, which is quite conveniently created an icon there. So that's the database instance. That's where we're going to put the content. So this is, so basically for those that don't know, just very quickly, this is just basically dragging Windows Update onto your own machine to make it much faster. So you're not constantly going out to Microsoft all the time. So we will run that. And yet again, that does take its time to run through. And we'll be right back. Right, so that's sus completed. So what we're going to do is we're going to kick off the wizard to set it up. But SCCM does the configuration, not you. So what we do is we hit next, yes, synchronize, and then we cancel it. And that's it. close it down. SCCM takes over from that point. This is going to take forever to download, so I'm gonna whiz it along. Hey guys, so I'm back. ADK kit has successfully installed. So we are now ready, with a bit of luck, to install SCCM. So go to your source folder, run the splash, hit install, and hopefully everything will pass the prereq test. So we want to install a primary site. So hit next, accept the terms, accept. I find this strange because it wants us to accept SQL Express even though we're not actually installing SQL Express. Now we've got more files to download. We'll just put them in the inside your profile documents. So we'll put them there. It could be handy if you're playing around with installations to actually download them to a location that you can retrieve them, because if it fails, you then got to keep downloading them over and over and over and over again. So download them to a location that you can get to. Yay, finally. Right, so give it a site code. Remember, the site code cannot be changed. Once it's set in stone. So choose wisely. So we set ours to Elm. Set it to Elm HQ or whatever you want. We do want to install the console, so hit next. This is something new. So this is basically connecting. I don't quite get this because this is effectively Windows Update. So keep your config manager up to date by connecting it to our cloud service. Connecting to cloud service brings many benefits such as receiving new updates and features. Isn't that Windows Update? But hey ho. So we want to go out to there, so hit next. Now, this is where we specify our SQL server. So we want 16 SC SQL 01. We leave the instance as default and the database will be CM Elm. I'm happy with that. Hit next. That's worked. It's also detected that our database will go onto the E drive. Remember, this is where the file sharing firewall ports come in. If you haven't opened them, this just sits there forever, doesn't work, trust me. Hit next. See, that's worked. Okay, SMS providers, that's fine. Hit next. We want to configure communications for each site. Hit next. Install management point and install distribution point. Obviously we need a distribution point because that's the point of SCCM deploying packages. So hit next. We get a nice little summary of everything we're about to do. Hit next. And this hopefully will come back as clear. If not, we'll have to go back and correct some things. I guarantee it's going to whinge about SQL memory, because it always does. So verify site server permissions to publish to Active Directory. Okay, so one thing that we left out at the beginning is domain controller. We need to create a system management container. So go over to your domain controller. Log in. And what we need to do is bring up ADSI edit. Connect to our domain. Inside system. Now I'm going off memory here. So we need to create a new object, and it needs to be a container. And it needs to be system management. So hit next. So once that's done, close ADSI edit down. So once that's done, go into users and computers. Go into view, go into advanced features, because it actually hides the menu, otherwise you can't see it. So expand your domain, go into system, find system management, which is there. Right click on it and say delegate control. Say add, and then put in your SCCM computer account, but just go to objects, add in computers, 16 SCCM 01, hit there. Create a custom task to delegate, so say next. Hit next. Full control. Finish. Okay, so once that's done, go back to your SCCM box. And as predicted, we have a SQL memory usage, blah blah blah. So let's just rerun that check just to make sure that it can see the system management container. Because if we don't have rights to publish to Active Directory, then it tends to go wrong. It doesn't actually stop you from installing, but it'll cause you issues further down the line. But while that's actually going through, if you go onto your SQL box, it's moaning about the memories, because what you can do is you can bring up the SQL management tools here, go into the management studio. This will take a bit longer first time around because it just builds the profile. Log in, and at the top, if you go to properties, go to memory, this is what it's moaning about, and we've actually got a memory limiter there of 2 odd terabytes, so we can actually set that to 8 gig, because that's all we have set on the SQL box. Now you need to restart SQL services. SQL there it is, configuration manager, and if you go to SQL services, go to SQL Server and just restart. On here it's probably faster to actually just to reboot the whole box, but in an enterprise environment you wouldn't do that. You would actually restart the individual services. Let's see what SCCM's getting up to. Right, so the container message has gone away, so that's good. And so that's what it's referring to there, the 8 gig of memory and 4 gig for a secondary site. So that's fine. So SQL is configured to have unlimited memory usage. So we corrected that by setting it to 8 gig. So the last error we should have and there we go. So we are ready to start the installation. Now this, like SQL, can take 10 minutes, 20 minutes, half an hour, depends. It is quite lengthy based upon your hardware. When I did some tests on this before, it took about 20 minutes all in all. So we'll be right back. Hey guys, and welcome back. So as we can see, installation took 19 minutes and 53. There's still a couple of points to set up, but it'll do it in the background. But we are ready to close. So one of the tools that you can use, which is actually invaluable to SCCM, is actually CM Trace. Now you'll find this inside your installation source under Tools. You've got CM Trace there. Make a copy of that to your desktop. Even pin it to your start menu because you will be using it daily. It is invaluable to understanding what SCCM is doing in the background. So just as a little example, is if you open it up, there is a log folder under Program Files, under Configurations Manager, Logs. Here, even though we haven't actually started the console yet, it is starting to create logs. And just to load that one up as an example, so we can see everything that the Active Directory control is doing. We could look at sender. So sender is how it transfers its files, etc., etc. So we can even use it to look at the prerequisites as we was installing, for example, in the root directory. There is a SQL management prereq. And this went through, this created a log file of when it was doing its install. So it is invaluable to your daily use. It is highly recommended. So let's start the console for the first time. Oh, it's actually there. And see if it starts. Yay! And there we go. There's a familiar site. So assets and compliance. So this is basically your estate. Software library. So this is everything for your packages, monitoring, obviously, and administration. This is where we actually set up the meat and the veg of SCCM. Now we're not going to go through this the setup of SCCM in this video. It was purely just to sort of get it all running. It was quite a lengthy one, so I'll give you a break. So please do give me a thumbs up. Please feel free to drop me a comment as well if you like the video, if you got any comments. I'm sure there's things that I've missed or I've done wrong, and I'm always open to feedback. So that's the end of the video, and thanks for watching. Until next time, see you later.